Yeah. Kind of like me. Refuses to stop.
Like,
That's like me. Bright the whole time. And about to go off, yeah.
Chief Ward, would you lead us in the pledge tonight? Or not yet, here in just a second.
It's working.
It's working.
Okay.
And I'll ask for your opinion. It is 7 o'clock. Good evening, everyone, and I'll call our meeting to order. This is the March 24th meeting of the Scott County Fiscal Court, our business meeting, and I appreciate you all being here tonight. I'd like to ask everyone to join me in a moment of silence before we get started with our meeting. Still a lot of conflict going on in Ukraine and in the world. Just appreciate that gesture to join me in a moment of silence for that area of the world. Thank you very much. Chief John Ward's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. I'd like to ask Ms. Hamilton to call the roll.
Mr. Hostetler?
Present.
Mr. Lyons?
Here.
Mr. Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Corman?
Present.
Mr. Ellison?
Here.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
Mr. Livingston?
Here.
Mr. Marshall?
Here.
Judge Pennington?
Present. Thank you very much, Ms. Hamilton. The minutes of our last meeting were shared by email. Are there any questions or comments?
Make a motion.
Dave Livingston makes a motion to accept as presented. Alvin Lyons seconds that. Any other questions or comments? All those in approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes, please say nay. Motion passes. Number 4 on our agenda. I'm sorry, we'll move down to number 5. Transfers. Transfers as presented in your packet. Any questions or comments related to those?
No question, Judge. Motion.
Motion. Is there a second? Second from Kelly Corman. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 6, bills and hand checks as presented. Any questions or comments? Is there a motion to accept as presented? Motion from Alvin Lyons. Is there a second? Tim Thompson with the second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
next, we will go to number 7. This is a second reading of Ordinance 22-02, solar energy systems. Really believe this is much needed, and it addresses some areas that will protect our community in regards to just laying out some regulations and addressing larger scale and smaller scale, but the concern being the larger scale systems. And the one major thing is dealing with them when they're decommissioned as well, and this ordinance does that for us. So are there any questions or comments before Rand reads the summary?
I'll start.
Yes, sir.
So I think all the folks on the court got a letter from a Mr. Carr, who lives in the district that I have the privilege to serve, and he had some concerns, and he stated those, and I'm not going to try to reword what he stated. But I went and saw what he's doing at his home. I thought it was really interesting. And I'll just make a couple of comments of what I got out of his concerns. I hate to try to speak for him. I invited him to come, but they had other plans. I think they're out of town now. But in general, he was concerned about the categories. You know, there's a chart in the ordinance, and his examples, and he gave that in his concerns. He has his home, and those are on, he has a number of solar panels. He tells in there how many square feet he's got. He's actually updated and upgraded 3 times. His original installation, and he's added to it twice in the last 2 or 3 years. And he's well pleased with it. But he has 2 barns on the property, and they're really far apart. So according to the ordinance, he's concerned that it kind of dampens, you know, he's got to, the way he's reading it, he's got to come and get a conditional use permit. And I think he's correct the way he's read it. And in fact,
anything that would go over 2,500 square feet on a small scale array would require a conditional use permit.
Right.
Checking with Joe Kane earlier this week, that is a 1-page document and pretty streamlined. You know, it's you know, I think the ordinance addresses that, I believe.
Well, and I agree with that, but his concern is his barns are so far apart, they're not going to be anywhere close to one another. He has a neighbor just across the street that is a similar deal. He's got solar set up for his house, but he's also got a shop, and that fellow, I think, has got the shop and the house, but they're very close together. So he's got one system, but that guy also has other outbuildings, and they're looking at, hey, I got to go jump through some hoops. That's kind of how he put it. And you know, because it's 2,500 square feet for the one property, but they're not going to be together. So I guess in my words, what I said to him, I said, what you're looking for is a little more flexibility. And I told him, I said, look, this is kind of a first time out for us on this kind of thing for the county, and we were really looking at the big picture, as you've already stated, and I talked to him about that as well. So that's kind of where that was at, and I told him I'd try to express his concerns, and I think he was really hoping that going forward it would be looked at in a little bit more of a flexible way for the small guys, because he doesn't want 40 acres of solar panel. And I think that's kind of what we're concerned about, is what that looks like. Not that we want to discourage them, even the big projects. We're looking at, and I explained that to him, we're looking at long-term, and if somebody walks away from a big project, who's responsible for it? So I explained that to him. I told him I express some of that here tonight, so I've done that best I can. So.
Matt Summers with Planning and Zoning is here. Matt, would you offer any comments related to?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this particular situation. Are these solar panels he wants on his house and outbuildings, or are these ground mounted?
Ground mounted.
They're ground mounted.
Ground mounted.
Yeah, they're already in place.
Okay.
Actually, he wanted them some of them on the house itself, but his wife didn't. So,
Okay.
but
Because I guess what I was going to add, I didn't know, but if if they are mounted on the house, then those are accessory structures. I mean, you can see in the table, those are just permitted basically anywhere outside of the historic district. They would need a conditional use permit if they were sort of visible from the street.
So, as the ordinance is written, a barn does not qualify as like if he wanted to mount them on the barn roof.
Yeah, that would be fine as well. If you place them on a roof of any building, that's an accessory use. The primary use would be whatever use that barn is, or if it's a house, the residential is the primary use.
Okay, but if you wanted to do a ground mount and it exceeded the sum total of ground mounts exceeded 2,500 square feet, then he'd need a CUP.
Yes and possibly no. I mean, it's not. I think if they were doing it in multiple projects, let's say they did two that were, 2,000 square foot each,
Yeah.
I don't know that that would trigger the need for a CUP.
Okay. I really do believe that there is the need for us to go forward with the second reading, but if we need to tweak something
Yeah, that's,
as we go
we're certainly
forward,
open to that.
and we won't tweak it like Coach Cal, but we will tweak it, and that's a bad joke.
Easy.
But I'm still blue through and through. But I couldn't pass that up. But if we need to tweak it, then we'll look at it.
Okay.
But I think the overall greater good of having an ordinance in place is really what is needed. Alvin, would you comment on anything?
Yeah, I would agree. The companies are already making contacts, trying to lease acres and acres of properties to do this. We're not talking about 2,500 square feet, we're talking about multiple acres. They're talking about a 50-acre tract that they want to lease. So we need to get in place, and like I said, if we need to make some adjustments, we can. We're not trying to get somebody for their own use.
But
We're trying to protect the county from
if we can even maybe talk about and make sure this is clarified for, that type of situation with Mr. Carr, because he's probably not the only one that's got that question. Let's get our head together and talk about it and then go from there. But I do think there's the greater good is going forward. And, there's nothing, we're in America, and if there's solar farms all over the United States popping up, this just puts some parameters on it. And people want to do that, they can still do it, but they just have to do it within the ordinance guidelines. So, yes, sir.
And one other thing that I meant to highlight already, but that Mr. Carr suggested, and it kind of is an example of why we're doing an ordinance, is what I told him. If you guys got a chance to read his email, he talked about what if you have a subdivision somewhere out in the county that gets developed, and that developer decides, well, hey, we'll put us a little solar farm type of thing here that will be to help supplement this community, because quite frankly, he told me that he averages $20 a month, and he's all electric. He makes $20 a month year round. He sells back that much to the utility company that services him. But anyhow, his point was, he thinks, well, you're kind of trying to prevent that. I said, well, I don't think we are, but I said, but the other side of that is, say a developer does do that, and it's a little subdivision, it's got 30 homes scattered out, and I said, if they develop a little solar farm that will help supplement and cut their utility bills, who's going to manage that long term? So I said, so we would have a need to at least manage that through this type of a thing, through an ordinance or whatever. I said, so it cuts both ways. So anyhow, I thought he had a good suggestion there, and that may come in the future.
No,
as people
would
develop.
not surprise me. Any court member have any question or comment?
I complain incessantly about bills that are passed, that the unintended consequences, when you can look at them and you know what's coming, and it doesn't matter, they get passed anyway, because we'll fix it when we come back a year from now. The good thing about serving locally is if we need to call an emergency meeting or if we need to change something, we're here twice a month at least and are able to do that. So I think that going ahead and passing it, it's not something that, if there is an unintended consequence, we can't address immediately. So I'm comfortable with where it is, but I understand too, I don't think it should affect if somebody wants to put them on his barn, and it doesn't sound like it does. If it's just strictly residential for, a person, then I don't think anything should prohibit them from doing that, even a historical district.
We actually had that exact conversation, and he said, well, when government does it, how do you ever take it back? And actually, Mr. Carr's actually been a county judge executive. Right. And so I said, now you know that this county court's as close as it gets to the people. I said, if it's going to get changed, we do it. And we have had emergency meetings, and he knew that. So we had that conversation, and you're right, David. When you get up a few levels away from us, it's tough to get something changed.
We can't escape this constituents.
Well, and that's a good thing, in my view.
I agree.
Tim Thompson.
I would like to see us pass it just for the the bigger need that Alvin's talking about, but like Rick said, I mean, passing it now and then going back and tweaking it to make it better for the smaller folks as far as the farmers, in that regard, be better than having to make it more stringent on them later. So I think we pass it, then figure out what we need to do for those guys, and then come back and look at it.
I appreciate that. You know, the solar option is all about return on investment for the individual, the farmer, and that we can still address that. And if it's a roof mounted, then it's not even
Correct.
It's not even an issue. But if it's a ground mounted, they want to put it somewhere near a barn or something,
And that may not be an issue, maybe, right?
So-
I mean,
let's get our heads together and clarify that. But
Yeah.
at this point, unless there's any other comments or questions, I'd ask Rand to read the summary.
This is ordinance number 22-02, an ordinance providing for and regulating solar energy in Scott County, and we're just reading the summary. Section 1 defines certain terms used in the ordinance. Section 2 sets out the purpose of the ordinance. Section 3 sets out the situations subject to the ordinance and those that are not. Section 4 sets out when a conditional use permit is required to construct and operate a solar energy system. Section 5 sets out general requirements applicable to integrated and rooftop solar energy systems. Section 6 sets out several requirements applicable to ground-mounted solar energy systems. Section 7 sets out the requirements for conditional use permit applications. Section 8 provides for public notice and comment. Section 9 sets out the security required for decommissioning. A complete copy of the ordinance is available at the County Judge Executive's Office, 101 East Main Street, Georgetown. First reading was March 11th. Second reading today, March 24th.
With that said, a motion from Alvin Lyons, a second from David Livingston. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
You want this page
Thank
2,
you.
certification. Excuse me, Judge.
Oh, thank you. There you go, Stace. All right. Thank you all very much for that work. Matt, thank you all and your
Thanks,
team for your efforts on behalf of that ordinance and work and the community. So thank you very, very much. I'll move to number 8, ordinance 2203, second reading, regulatory license fee. We had a first reading at our last meeting. This would be a second reading. Very confident that that this would be used by our law enforcement to help our community and to police that sector. What comments or questions does anyone have before I ask Rand to consider reading the ordinance for a second time?
We didn't get an update. The stamping ground say that we did get removed.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I should have sent that to you. But yeah, they are in there, yeah. This is ordinance 22-03, an ordinance establishing a regulatory license fee on the sale of alcohol beverages in Scott County. Whereas this county of Scott has previously authorized the sale of alcohol beverages in Scott County in ordinance number 19-11, and whereas KRS 233075 authorizes the county to impose a regulatory license fee on the sale of alcoholic beverages sold in the county, it is reasonably estimated to fully reimburse the county for the estimated costs for any policing, regulatory, or administrative related expenses. Whereas the Scott County Fiscal Court desires to impose said fee to recoup these expenses, now therefore be it ordained by the Scott County Fiscal Court as follows. Section 1, the regulatory license fee. Pursuant to KRS 243-075, there is hereby imposed a regulatory license fee upon the gross receipts of the sale of alcoholic beverages of each establishment located outside the limits of the cities of Georgetown, Sadie, and Stamping Ground, but within the geographical boundaries of Scott County, licensed to sell alcoholic beverages. As of the time of adoption of this ordinance, the regulatory license fee shall be 5% of gross sales of all alcoholic beverages sold by the drinker. In the case of retail sales, packaged distilled spirits and wine, the regulatory license fee shall be 5% of gross sales. The regulatory license fee shall be 5% of gross retail sales of packaged malt beverages. Thereafter, pursuant to KRS 243-075, the Scott County Fiscal Court shall adopt at the budget adoption for each subsequent fiscal year such annual rate for the regulatory license fee as shall be reasonably estimated to ensure full reimbursement to the county for the cost of any additional policing, regulatory, or administrative expense related to the sale of alcoholic beverages in the county. Should the county fail to address the regulatory license fee in any budget, the regulatory license fee shall remain at the level at which it was last fixed until such time as the Scott County Fiscal Court shall adjust the fee. Section 2, payment of fee. Payment of such regulatory fee shall be remitted to the local ABC administrator and shall be held in a separate account maintained for the purpose of fully reimbursing the county for the estimated cost of any additional policing, regulatory, or administrative expense related to the sale of alcoholic beverages in the county. The regulatory license fee shall be in addition to any other taxes, fees, or licenses permitted by law. Payment of the regulatory license fee shall accompany the tax return approved for such use by the Scott County Fiscal Court. The return and payment are due no later than the end of the month immediately following each calendar quarter. Section 3, failure to pay fee and file a return. I feel like I'm missing something here. Remittance by the due date is 5% of the tax for each 90 days or fraction thereof beyond the due date of the return and/or fee. The total late filing penalty shall not exceed 25% of the tax, provided, however, that in no case shall the penalty be less than $10. Interest at the rate of 8% per annum will apply to any late payments. Section 4, disposition of fees. The local ABC administrator shall transmit fees upon collection to the Scott County Fiscal Court to be deposited into an appropriate designated account. Fees collected from the sales of alcoholic beverages shall be used in the following manner. All administrative expenses, including but not limited to A, salaries of local ABC administrator staff, B, office equipment and supplies directly related to administration and regulation of alcoholic beverage control law, C, office space, utilities, communication, and technology expenses for administration and regulation, D, travel expenses incurred for policing, administration, and regulation of alcoholic beverages, and E, any additional costs directly related to the administration and regulation of alcoholic beverages. 2, if applicable, all fees collected in excess of expenses included above shall be dispersed as follows. A, 100% to Scott County Fiscal Court, and B, fees shall be used for policing expenses and regulatory or administrative expenses directly related to alcohol-related incidents and responses. Section 5, this ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication as required by law. First reading was March 11th this year, adopted tonight, assuming you do March 24th, 2022. I'll be honest with you, I feel like I'm...
There's a sentence missing.
Well, that's what I thought on number 3. Yeah, I went from failure to pay fee and file return, and then my next page starts with remittance, like
If
mid-sentence.
you have your glasses on, you can read it.
Okay, maybe.
It's tiny, right? That top, on there it's C, but it's A. Yeah. When
Okay.
Julie edited it.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, yeah, that's what must have happened. Yeah.
When she took out those 3.
Yeah. As amended, this will read, Section 3, failure to pay fee and file return. Failure to pay such quarterly remittance within 10 days of the due date constitutes a violation and subjects the licensee to suspension or revocation. Penalty for failure to file return and pay quarterly remittance by the due date is 5% of the tax for each 90 days or fraction thereof. The total late filing penalty shall not exceed 25% of the tax, provided, however, that in no case shall the penalty be less than $10. Interest at the rate of 8% per annum will apply to any late payments. Thank you.
Thanks
Sorry
for
about that.
The assist.
Yeah.
Questions, comments? No questions or comments? You know, I will comment that Sheriff Hampton will gladly assist and make sure that, you know, that those revenues are put to use as intended. and it feels like it'd be a positive thing, and he supports it.
Do you know? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Press.
Nobody had
Right.
questions until now.
Do we have any kind of guesstimate on what we think this may generate, or is it just
It's
solely off of how much?
yeah, totally, and we are so right now. It's just been a slow start for requests for license. There's not that many.
Michelle's on.
Michelle, do you have any comment?
No comment.
All right.
We have about a handful of applicants or licensees, with a couple that are in the waiting queue.
I just think as we continue to grow, that will grow as well. So, it's a tool. Might as well use it.
Yes, sir.
Comments?
You get it.
Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Motion from David Livingston. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Mr. Tim Thompson.
And this is a first reading, right? Second reading, okay.
Second.
All right.
Second reading. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all. We will move to number 9, Road Department new hire, Jeff Mudrack, J.R. Brandenburg. Jeff is bootless.
I was going to say, didn't he have surgery?
Yeah.
I'm not an NFL player, but I'm recovering quickly.
All right.
No, thank you, Judge, magistrates. On behalf of J.R. Brandenburg, I'm pleased to recommend the appointment of Kevin Whitlock as an equipment operator or laborer, effective Monday, April the 4th at $21.20 an hour. As I indicated in the email I sent you, that Kevin has more than 20 years of related experience. He has his Class B CDL license and also has his electrician's license, so he'll be definitely will be an asset to the county.
David Livingston.
Well, I'll make a motion, but I have a question too.
Go ahead.
So, do we have an electrician on staff, a licensed electrician at this time?
Not that I'm
No?
aware of. Is that
Okay.
correct? Yeah.
Are there any, so I know, like with schools, we have to, when you have a licensed electrician on staff, we have to provide a certificate of insurance for them to turn in to show that they are licensed, to show to the state so that they can continue to carry their license. So I'm not sure if that has to happen here. I just would not want to miss that if that is,
Somebody at Keiko and let me know and I'll get it.
yeah, I'm sure I'll be there in a
Jeff,
couple days.
Can you and David coordinate
Sure, absolutely.
the continued benefits of a?
I'm sorry, certificate of insurance. Just proving that he has insurance so that he can maintain his license and work actively.
David, can you all hear me?
Dwayne Ellison.
What we also might want to think about, if you're going to use him as an electrician to help him keep his license, you can help make sure he, keeps his classes up, and since you can help make sure he, keeps his classes up and continues to keep his license and support him in that way. We do that for the school guys. So something to think about long term if you're going to get that use out of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's some,
Anything from you down there, Mr. Electrician?
there's some continuing ed he's got to take.
How many hours a year is that?
Well, there's 2 different licenses, and it's 6 hours for each one, I think.
But one gesture would be to pay him to go to class to keep his license. And I would support that. I think it's. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second, Mr. Lyons. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Jeff, would you stay up and we'll talk about our EMS promotion. Chris, if you have any comments, I'd be happy to hear from you as well.
And so on the behalf of Chris Runyon, I'm pleased to recommend the promotion of Natalie Guerrera as field training officer. That'll be effective Saturday, April 2nd, which is the start of the next pay period. Her new rate of pay will be $17.96 an hour. Natalie was the best internal candidate for the position, and she does bring a wealth of prior experience with leadership and supervision, and definitely will continue to be an asset to the department. So I'm presenting to you her recommendation.
Questions? Motion?
Second.
Second from Rick Hostetler. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Jeff. Chief Ward, would you join us? Fire department bid, breathing air compressor cylinders, charge station. I believe we opened this bid on Monday.
Friday.
Or
Last Friday.
I'm losing my time. We opened
On March 18th.
March 18th. And there were 3 bids.
That's correct.
I'll let you share the information related to the bid that you would like to recommend.
Yes, sir. Judge Magistrates, on behalf of the fire department, we would recommend going with America's Bravest. And the amount would be $60,711.01. That includes the actual compressor, the 3-bank fill station, and also adding the option of an auto cascade option and the additional 5-year warranty to that. I think initially it comes with a 2-year warranty. So with all those, it totals out to $60,711. That's our recommendation. And it would come from our special projects line item. We do have money in that account, and actually we'll have a little bit of left over after paying for the SCBA's plus this compressor and fill station.
Great. So we're still waiting on the SCBA's to be delivered.
Yeah, we got word yesterday, I think. We should have them within a week or so.
And, you know, when we do get those, we want to celebrate that because it's a huge commitment from the court to making sure that our staff have updated equipment that protects them, and I'm proud that we've done that. This just helps make it operational and effective. That's about
Basically,
the best.
it fills those cylinders that we have on the packs.
Yeah. So, questions, comment? Tim Thompson.
Chief, is this going to replace the system?
It is, yes.
Is the system that we have in the SCBA, all the SCBA's that we currently have, are they all expired, or they still have some left?
We still have some life in the pack or the cylinders, yes.
Would that be
We would probably surplus packs.
Is that something that we could possibly think about with Stamping Ground? Maybe working with them to.
I know when I was at Georgetown, when we replaced our compressor and fill station, I think that went to Stamping Ground, actually, yes. Yes, absolutely.
Not jumping the gun a little bit, but just thinking about on that.
Absolutely.
Would you reach out and we'll go from there?
Absolutely.
Questions or other comments?
Motion.
Motion from Rick Hostetler, second from David or Tim. Second from Tim Thompson. David deferred. David deferred. Questions or comments? Anything else? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Court.
Appreciate it. Number 12 does not require action. It is just the record should reflect that a draft detention center budget was submitted on 4/1 by Jailer Darren Broyles. There's still work to be done on that draft, but it has been submitted, and that meets the requirement. Any questions or comments there? And then I will move to number 13, new business. One item shared via email that I'd like to move our April 1st work session from April 1st to April 4th at 4 o'clock. I did not have any emails with conflicts. I just wanted to confirm that. And then we'll have that. Of course, there's no action taken. It's just we'll move off April 1st to April 4th at 4 o'clock. And then I want to ask the court for feedback, and Rand has reviewed the contract, but we had a request from a vendor to make a bid on our IOP contract that we have with the Shepherd's House. It's been 2 years since that went into effect, and it'll be 2 years on July 1. And the contract, the way it reads, it can just roll over for a period, but we can put it back out to bid. Rand, could you share just what you see there?
Yes, the initial term was 2 years. That runs out July 31st of this year. If we're going to consider another option, we have to give them written notice not less than 120 days prior to that 2-year term expiring. And if I've calculated it right, by the time we meet again, it would be too late to do it then. So we would have to do it now. So I think the question is, do we send them a notice, telling them that, we're going to look at it, don't necessarily have to terminate it, but if we're going to consider another vendor, I think we've got to give them that written notice here soon to leave that open as a possibility.
Rick and I met with the other vendor that made the request to meet and made the request to put a bid in. And, after a request is made, I feel like we have to do our due diligence to look at options. To be transparent, I had no intent to not renew the Shepherd's House contract. Felt like things were going well and going in the direction that we needed to. But when the request is made, it's not my decision. It's the court's decision. And that's why we're talking about it today. David
Judge,
Livingston. David Livingston and then Dwayne.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if you're in person, you go first.
Whatever.
I don't see any problem with providing notice and just tell them we're going to have conversation about it. But my concern is facilities like that, when you just, I don't want to be in and out every 2 years. That is somewhat of a longer-term commitment for them so that they know that they can keep that facility running. They're going to have people coming through. They have already established relationships with folks in need. And as I'm talking about it, I'm talking myself out of providing a notice and saying, let's continue on. But I've not heard any complaints. And our update that we've been given from them, I think last year, was positive. So I just, it's not like buying toilet paper and pencils. It's a human factor that's involved.
And it's about relationships.
Right.
And I can't agree with you more. But when we're talking about public dollars, I'm very torn, but I feel like we have to provide the due diligence of allowing the other to bid. Now, what we can do is, Dwayne, go ahead. I'm sorry, I did not recognize you, and you asked to speak. Go ahead.
Dang it, Joe. What I would say though, Shepherd's House, yeah, we've had them for 2 years, but they really didn't get going and get fired up there for a while because of COVID, and they haven't really got their feet going. But I've been with them multiple times individually, not just at ribbon cuttings and things like that, and been up there with people that are involved, and they're doing a great job. So I would make a motion that we renew them for at least one more year, and give them, and that gives us also time. Yeah, let's put it out to bid next year. Let's give them one more year, and let's look at our contract maybe deciding instead of a 2-year deal, it's a 3 to 5 year deal or something like that for the next time. That would be my opinion.
So there's a motion on the floor, but I need clarification. And I know Tim wants to speak. Anybody else? Tim, go ahead.
Yeah. I would just, Shepherd's House coming to Scott County is incredible. I mean, the fact that they're here just with the issues that we're dealing with in Scott County is an amazing thing. I'm actually friends with Rob Perez, Deviate Kitchen, and I've had long conversations of friends that have had to go to the Shepherd's House, and he will not even bring people into his organization unless they go through a structured facility like the Shepherd's House. I agree with you that it's been kind of a rough time, and this was, as if everything pretty much, all this was done prior to me, but I'm just, as moving forward, I think that this would be something that I would like to see us at least give them another year to try to get their feet under, and then maybe give them that notice a year from now, we're going to maybe put it out.
Judge, if I can just say, if we don't give notice, then after July 31st this year, we can terminate upon 60 days notice with or without cause. It's just during that first 2-year period, we had to give 120.
So if we let it go to July 1,
we could still.
And then you could, I don't want to do business. Of course, we wouldn't want to do business like that. Yeah. And I agree with David. There's about continuity, but my job is to bring options to the court, and the court considers, and the court, and when you're dealing with a competitive bidding process, that's what it is.
We have in that contract, though, that competitive contract, that it was renewable, right? I mean, we put that out there, that it was public notice that it could be renewable. That's part of it.
Yes.
In every phase of public bidding, that is a part of the process. If everybody's happy, you renew it, so you don't have to go through the dog and pony show and waste everybody's time.
No, I don't want to waste anybody's time.
Is this a professional service?
I think so, yeah. I think it'd be.
So I think on a professional service, especially like this with a human factor involved, I don't think you do. I would prefer not to do sealed bids. I would want to do requests for qualifications and then actually have people sit down, maybe a couple of members of the court, maybe someone from the community that's been affected by that need, to sit down and interview those companies and then allow them to present their pricing. But a sealed bid doesn't give you who they are and what they do.
No. And the last time when we did this, we had presentations, and I thought that was valuable. What I don't hear is anyone making a motion just a second. I don't hear anybody making a motion to notify of our intent to cancel the contract. So there's no motion of that. Dwayne made a motion, and Dwayne, would you like to repeat that?
I make a motion that we renew with Shepherd's House for one more year.
Okay.
Well, and I don't know that we would renew it. I think at this point, we just let it continue on. We don't take action. It just keeps going.
So
that's fine. No action.
Your motion is to let it continue as is for another year.
Correct.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table.
We don't need a motion then.
We really don't.
No, because we really don't need to take action if we wanted to, be perpetuated.
Dwayne, would you, with that said, would you...
I'll just shut up. I'll just go back here and shut up.
I ask you, just you pull your motion. All right. All right.
My motion.
And then, but my job is to bring information to the court, and that's what I've done. And I'm sure after this meeting that I'll have a request to share more information, probably. but it's out there. We're you know, it's. I think I have a feel from the court about what you all want to do, so that's what I'm doing my job.
Because there are a number of companies that operate like the Shepherd's House, a number of them. There's another one in Scott County. Actually, there's even some smaller groups in Scott County that are operating in similar fashion to Shepherd's House. So that's kind of what I got out of that conversation. They were looking for an opportunity to go through some kind of bidding process. So on that side of things, I think that's where you're coming from, which I agree with that too, that that's all about taxpayer dollars, and so that's what you were trying to do, and I agree with that too. But the other things are, they did start up in the middle of COVID. In fact, it was probably 6 or 8 months before we ever got up to the start gate.
So we'll move forward, and if there's any other additional information, I'll bring it to the court, and we'll go forward. The last item I have is we mentioned this at our last meeting, didn't have time to really share information in regards to the Planning Commission open vacancy for a county appointment, and that information has been shared. There's 4 applicants. There was a Tanya Buck, a Melissa Waite, Russ Finley, and Brad Green. And I shared applications that they filled out and submitted for consideration on the Planning Commission. I will open for comments from anyone on the court.
Judge, I think it's fantastic. We had 4 applications for a very difficult position. I appreciate that very much, and I'm sure they'll all be good. But Stephen Smith is the person rotating off, and he's the only full-time farmer on there. What they do affects agriculture as much as anybody. So I would like to see Brad Green, who is a full-time farmer. I've worked with on other boards, be very qualified, but do a good job. I would like to see Brad Green get that position because of his ag background.
I'd like to make a comment. Actually, I agree with you. I've read the 4 applications, and I know Brad personally as well. I think he'd do a very thoughtful person and take it seriously, and would be a good addition.
I agree with you, because I think when we dealt with the last issue, when he represented the community there, that he did a very good job and was well put together in his argument in defending the zoning laws and everything. My only concern is, can he? And I think you know what I'm referring to.
Well, the potential conflict of his stepfather, Charlie Perkins, being the counsel for the Planning Commission. And I spoke earlier today with Rand about that. Rand, would you comment on that?
Well, I mean, I can see, potentially where that would be an issue. Charlie took one position. Would he oppose that, or would he just go along with it? I don't think there's any issue, obviously, in what he's already done, because that's a done issue. If it comes back in front of them, he can recuse himself from that. But to me, that's problematic. That's my personal opinion.
But it's not yes or no.
It's not unethical.
I like Matt had a great answer earlier. He said yes and maybe no. That's a great lawyer answer that I approve of, Matt. And that's kind of where I am on this. Is it an inherent conflict? Well, I don't think so. I don't think it would automatically disqualify him just because he's his stepson. It's not ideal, but, that's not really the question, I guess.
And I don't know Mr. Green, but to me, that seemed like that would give all kinds of opportunities. Yes, I don't know if it would or not. I mean, yes or
about this? If you all are inclined to nominate him, let's make it subject to me touching base with Rich Ornstein, somebody smart, and asking him, you know, if he sees anything wrong with it. And if he says fine, it'll stand. And if he says no, it'll be subject to that, and we'll have to come back and revisit it.
I will make a comment. I'm very appreciative of Mr. Finley, Ms. Waite, Ms. Buck, and Mr. Green, you know, their willingness to serve. And I know that any of the four would serve well. I'm confident of that. I certainly respect Mr. Lyons' thought process of having a full-time farmer with that perspective on that commission. I respect that very much, and I think it would bring a, you know, that viewpoint as well to the commission. Is there a motion?
I was going to ask first, if we make it subject to an opinion from Rich Ornstein or
Yeah,
someone at
contingent
Keiko,
upon him reviewing that and saying there's no inherent conflict.
but if it comes back no, do we have time to come back and name somebody else, or is there a time limit?
We could do it on April 4th. That we'd make that a special called meeting. And
Well, in that case, I move that we nominate Brad Green, subject to review from someone at Keiko.
Okay.
I'll second that.
there's a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. With that, I conclude my new business. Is there any new business from any court member? David Livingston.
Chris, I want to ask Mr. Runyon something.
Chris, would you come to?
I don't know if you have been made aware of it yet, and I don't know if you've seen these devices before. They actually kind of look like life jackets, and they're to assist, like if somebody fell in the shower and you're in a wet area trying to pick them up. You put them around them, and they have handles. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Not specifically. I know
Okay.
of some similar devices, but nothing that's like a vest that you would wear.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't know how exactly it goes on, but that's what it reminded me of, was a life jacket. But
Okay.
Keiko, any of the work comp members that are EMS, they're going to give one
Oh, wow.
for the EMS. But I would like for us to see if that's something that would help, because
Absolutely.
they say that they went and researched in their work comp book at all the claims, and the lifting claims of helping someone that's fallen in odd spaces or bathrooms that are wet and all that. But those should be coming, and we'll get one. And I'd like to see if it's something that you would recommend.
Sure.
For us to
give
look
it a
at
shot.
that.
Put it out and
So
test
they're like, I think they're around $600.
Okay.
Looks like a life jacket to me, but
While you're there, would you comment? And I, you know, it always makes me feel very good, and I think we need to make sure we share good things. And this is a joint operation between EMS and our fire department, but you all just this week have been doing a lot of training on the advanced stroke
life support. Yes.
life support.
ASLS.
Can you share that?
Sure. That's you guys have probably heard me refer to that class as we are the only certified agency in the state of Kentucky that can teach that class. So it's a pretty prestigious honor that we get to share that. We travel that all around our state, and actually have been out of state a couple times to help with classes in Ohio. But so it's just a one-day course for pre-hospital care providers to help recognize strokes and kind of what to do. The first, you know, with stroke as in heart attacks and those kind of things, time is the most critical element of those. And so it helps to early recognition and then get them to an appropriate facility. And that's where some of the confusion comes in, because hospitals have to get certified through a joint commission if they're stroke ready or not. So that we teach that and talk about what hospitals have what capabilities, and it's a fantastic course.
But our fire department joined in on that training, correct?
Yeah, they came to that as well, and they,
So-
you know, they respond with us on just about all those
So-
stroke calls. So it's
Just, you know, another example of training and doing things to you know, make our community the safest it can be and prepared. So I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Before he goes, I think we need to recognize you and Chris, because I think it was last
Yes.
Thursday. There's House Bill 777 was an EMS bill that we all thought we supported to begin with, and then language changed, and it was going to be detrimental to county EMS.
Yes.
There were 14 groups involved in drawing the legislation, and then there was one group, CAICO counties, that opposed the legislation. And Judge Covington and Chris testified against the bill. The bill was tabled. They went back and made some concessions in the bill, and it passed out of the Senate favorably yesterday. So they took on the machine.
Well, the main thing is this. Counties across the state of Kentucky provide the vast majority of EMS services, either by contract or by taxing district or by providing it just like we do. We are an outlier because we have this interlocal with the city, and I don't know if there's any other example in the state, but it works great, and we have one of the best EMS agencies in the state or the nation, I would say, and I'm very proud. But the legislation was taking all voice away from counties in the process of the certificate of need process. If someone wanted an expedited process to do that, and county's voice was being taken away. So I think we successfully navigated keeping the county voice in the process. So I appreciate it. And Chris did a great job representing our community and sharing how important it was. And it's about the level of care. It's not about dollars. It's about care. So appreciate it.
Judge Covington,
no,
my speechwriter. That's what I meant to say.
No, I appreciate you recognizing that, and appreciate all the work that you do down there, David. It's very important. I don't know if everybody knows, but David's leadership position in both the Magistrates Association and now CAICO, it really helps us have an insider track on information and legislation and different things about grant funding and such. So I appreciate his work and his willingness to take that position and how it helps our community. Any other new business from anybody on the court, or if not, anybody from our audience, our folks here would make any public comment?
Turn the mic, I'll think that one. One quick thing, and I was working with Chief Ward, and I think I've spoken to you about it, but in case I haven't, I will now. I had a request from some folks up on the northern part of the county for a fire hydrant. And so, Chief, I found out that they are on Kentucky American. So that's a positive. So I don't know what that process is, because I don't think since I've been on the court we've ever done that, but I know the county has a lot of fire hydrants that we pay for.
I was here when George did that phone number of a lady that he always called when this needed to happen. And of course, Tim.
So Chief Ward or Tim, either one.
We have a rep that I can get you into.
Yeah, we recently did a request for a hydrant up on New Coleman Lane through Kentucky American. So, I mean, we can, as long as you're all okay with it, because we're going to be.
It's at least worth looking into.
We have a budgeted line item for just that, and I'm confident there's funds there.
So if you want me to go ahead and make that?
If you'll go ahead, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thank you. Anything else?
Thank you, Judge.
Anyone else?
Judge, I have drafted an ordinance which outlaws peacocks totally. I would like to read that. There's no objection.
It's too late.
I think Callaway County's already passed one themselves, so.
Is there a second or a motion for that? I don't think there's a motion. It's going to die. It's going to die. With that said, then, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion from David Livingston. Is there a second? A second from Kelly Corman. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.
That was hilarious.